Now, on the 27th of November this year, Kenya is heading towards by-elections. There are by-elections that actually emerge in some of the constituencies in Kenya, and simply because some of them were emerged because the initial member of parliament that represents the constituency died, and the other one is because of a new appointment, especially that Ruto appointed some of those members of parliament to the cabinet, and therefore making those constituency positions vacant, and therefore to refill that positions, the IEBC has actually called for by-elections that is happening on the 27th of this month. And among the by-elections held in some of the constituency includes the one happening in Malava constituency in Kakamega County. There is one happening in Magarini constituency, which is in Kilifi County in the coast. There's one happening in the Nyanza region, that is in Kasipul constituency, that is in Homa Bay. And the most important one also, there is one happening in Mbeere North constituency in Embu County of Mountain Kenya region. And out of all these by-elections, that are happening on the 27th of November 2025, the one that seems to be highly contested and of interest is the one happening in Mbeere North constituency in Embu County. And for reasons, just to give you a context, the by-elections that is happening on the 27th in Mbeere North came because the former occupant of that position, who is Ruku, right now a cabinet minister, was actually appointed by Ruto to serve as a cabinet minister, giving that position to fall vacant, and therefore a need for by-election is called on the 27th. So the people of Mbeere North constituency are actually heading to the polls on the 27th to vote for a new member of parliament to represent their constituency. And there are major two candidates in this by-election. One is a Newton Karis, who is the DP candidate fronted under the United Opposition, but also there is Leo or Leonard Muriku, who is the UDA candidate or the government candidate. And therefore, this is seen as one of the most highly contested by-election in Kenya, and both parties have a very high stake in these elections, and they have very different interests, and they intend to create a different public perception out of these by-elections happening on the 27th next week in Mbeere North. So in this video, I will tell you why these elections mean so much for both parties, especially the United Opposition and Rigathi Gachagua, but also the government side under Kenya Kwanza or UDA and William Ruto. Now, we all know that both parties have actually camped at Mbeere North constituency trying to persuade their voters to vote for their respective candidates. The former impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua camped in Mbeere North since the last 2 days, and he has been doing door-to-door kind of campaign, trying to persuade the voters to vote for their candidate. And in fact, in one of the days, as the former member of parliament from Mbeere North, that is Ruku, well, he was very busy in a radio talk show. Rigathi Gachagua actually went to one of his family members' home. I think it's a grandmother, and then he went to campaign and took some tea there. That it tells us how interesting these elections is. But also from the government side, the deputy president, that is Kithure Kindiki, camped at Mbeere North, also trying to do the same, persuading the voters. And this is actually makes these by-elections in Mbeere North, they're highly contested. And so many people asking questions, why these elections means so much for both parties, for both the United Opposition, but also for the government. Now, in this video, I'll try to explain to you or give you two reasons why these elections in Mbeere North means so much for both parties. One, the United Opposition, but also to William Ruto, the government, and to Kithure Kindiki. Now, first of all, to start with, in fact, to tell us how important these elections is, Rigathi Gachagua, who is the leader of the DCP party, he actually decided not to go and campaign for his candidate, his DCP candidate in Kilifi County, who is running under Magarini constituency, but he sent the likes of Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa, and Cleophas Malala while he camped at Mbeere North campaigning for the candidate, the DP candidate under the United Opposition. That tells us exactly how important this election is for Rigathi Gachagua. Now, for Riggy, these elections will be a litmus test. One, it is actually going to determine, it's going to be the first revenge from Mountain Kenya against Ruto since Ruto impeach Rigathi Gachagua. And therefore, for Riggy, this is a clear test. It's a clear determinant that the mountain is either under his control, he has influence over the mountain, or he has been living in illusion, and that the mountain is actually not under his control, but the mountain still pay allegiance to William Ruto and the UDA. This is a very, 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 very important elections for Rigathi Gachagua, because it's going to determine, it's going to tell us whether he is still in command of the mountain as he claims, or he is not. And for someone like Kithure Kindiki, of course, we both know that both Kithure Kindiki and Rigathi Gachagua happens to come from the same region, and that is the mountain region. So I feel that these elections for Kithure Kindiki will mean so much, because it's also going to determine whether Ruto will actually pick his running mate from the mountain or not. Because a win for Rigathi Gachagua, the United Opposition, and a lose for William Ruto, Kithure Kindiki, and UDA will mean that the mountain is not under Ruto. The mountain is not going to be anywhere close to Ruto, and therefore Ruto has to give the DP position probably to someone who happens from another region. That's why Kithure Kindiki is right now camped at Mbeere as well, trying to persuade the candidate. So this is a very important elections for Kithure Kindiki as well, because if the UDA candidates, Muriuki, lost this election, this means that it's going to give Ruto a very clear indication that the mountain has completely moved away from him, and he should look for alliance from another region, probably give the DP position to Luo Nyanza or the coast, and therefore he should do that, and that can only be determined through this election that is coming here. And so many people claim that actually the by-elections that is happening from on 27, especially the one in Mbeere, actually initiated by the president to clearly maybe tell him exactly if still the mountain is under him or not. And yeah, that's how important the elections in Mbeere North is, because it's a very huge event for both parties, for both the United Opposition, Rigathi Gachagua, but also for the government, Ruto, and the UDA party. A win for UDA will mean that Riggy has been living in utopia. He has been living in illusion. The mountain is still under Ruto, but also a win for Riggy will clearly signal Ruto that he should never waste time on the mountain. The mountain has moved away from him, and he should probably look for friends from other regions. That is a very, very important and very high determinant for both parties in this election. And I feel for this reason, that's why the elections in Mbeere is highly contested and is seen as one of the most significant elections or by-election that will determine partially how things will happen in 2027 general election. So thank you for listening. Tell us in the comment section what you think about the elections in Mbeere, if it is a very important event, if it is going to determine the 2027 elections or not. Thank you so much. Comment, like, share with your friends.